I'm going to keep this simple and straight, like a guy telling what happened to him. No pretty words, no city names, no poetry. Just what it was. I met her through friends. Everyone said she was a lot, but they also said I could handle it because I'm calm. At first, the a lot felt like charm. She talked fast, laughed louder than anyone, made everything feel like a movie. First date, she told the waiter. He brought the wrong water, then winked at me like it was our private joke. I thought, okay, she's direct. I didn't know yet that direct was just a soft cover over cruel. Early signs were small. She'd show up late, then act offended I noticed. If I said I'd been waiting 40 minutes, she'd sigh. You're so controlling. If I didn't mention it, she'd say I didn't care enough to notice. It was like every door I tried, I got smacked in the face either way. I told myself she was testing if I'd stick around. I stuck. She loved big gestures. She'd tell stories about exes who couldn't keep up, how she needed a real man, then look at me like she was measuring me for that title, and I hadn't earned it yet. I kept trying to earn it. That's on me. Money came up fast. She hated splitting. It's such a mood killer, she'd say, sliding the check toward me with one nail. If I paid, she'd barely say thanks. If I hesitated, she'd lean back and go, seriously? I started paying without thinking. Then she started sending me links to things she needed for work. A coat, some shoes, a ring light, a course run by some influencer who promises to activate your soft feminine power. I bought the coat. I said no to the course. She sulked for 2 days and posted a story about bare minimum men. I watched the views rack up and felt stupid. She was great at compliments that were insults with lipstick on. You're so solid, she'd say, then add, it's boring sometimes, but necessary. She told her friends I was safe. The way you talk about a chair that doesn't wobble, that sounds kind, but when everything else in her life was fireworks, being the chair wasn't flattering. I learned there's a way to make someone feel small with a smile on your face. She was fluent. Fights were never about the thing we were fighting about. If I asked why she flirted with a bartender right in front of me, she'd say I was insecure. If I asked why she was still texting her ex at 2 a.m., she'd say I was policing her. When I said I didn't like her reading my messages while I was in the shower, she said, if you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't care. Somehow, in every argument, she became the victim and I became the problem. It's a trick, and I fell for it over and over. There was a night she told me I didn't have to come to her friend's birthday because it was girls only. I said, okay, have fun. At midnight, she sent me a photo of her on some guy's shoulders, laughing. I didn't answer. At 1 a.m., she texted, I can't believe you're not even jealous. I said, you told me not to come. She wrote, you never fight for me. The next day, she gave me the silent treatment until I apologized for not caring enough. I apologized for something I didn't do because peace seemed cheaper than truth. It wasn't. She kept score in ways I couldn't win. If I cooked dinner, she'd say, my ex made better. If I booked a weekend trip, she'd say, cute, short. If I brought flowers, she'd say, you saw that on a show. Once I told her I was proud of a project at work. She said, you act like you cured something. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. Later, alone, it stung. She had a way with my friends, too. At first, they loved her. She's fun, they said. Then she started picking at them through me. This one's a bad influence. That one's secretly in love with you. That couple is fake. If I pushed back, she cried that she didn't feel prioritized. I started seeing my friends less to keep the peace. That was a mistake. Cutting yourself off from your own people is like removing the ground under your feet and then wondering why you fall. There was a point where she wanted to define us. We'd been together almost a year. I said yes, let's call it what it is. She gave me rules, not a relationship. Rule 1. Don't talk about her past unless she brings it up. Rule 2. Don't get upset about her male friends because she connects easily. Rule 3. Never bring up money because it makes her feel unprotected. Rule 4. If she is in a bad mood, I should disappear until she says otherwise. I said those rules felt one-sided. She said, if you love me, you'd understand my needs. I signed an invisible contract because I wanted the version of her from the first week back. I don't think she exists. I think that version is a hook. She was incredible at public affection and private punishment. At parties, she'd hang on me, kiss my cheek, make us look perfect. In the car on the way home, she'd go quiet and then slice. You embarrassed me when you told that story. You tried too hard. Everyone could see. If I said maybe she was projecting, she'd laugh and say, you read one book and think you're a therapist. I stopped telling stories. One time I got sick. Fever, chills, the works. She came over, took one look at me, and said, don't be dramatic. I asked if she could pick up soup. She said, you're not helpless. Then she took a bath at my place, used my last clean towel, posted a selfie with steam, and the caption self-care. I lay there shaking and listening to the bath water run, and realized I was alone with someone else in the apartment. That's a special kind of lonely. She cheated in a way where she could deny it, which is another trick. She'd leave her phone face down and giggle at the screen, then say she was laughing at a meme. She'd come home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, and say it was from hugging a friend. She'd forget to answer me all weekend, and then post a story of her hand with a different drink in every shot and a caption like, Girls' Night Forever. If I called her out, she'd cry. If I didn't, she'd push further. The worst part isn't the cheating. It's the way it makes you doubt your own eyes. When I finally said I was done, she didn't beg. She shrugged. Then she started a new round I didn't know about. She called mutual friends and told them I was unstable, obsessed, financially abusive, because I'd asked her to pay me back for the rent she promised to split and never did. That word, abusive, stuck in my chest like a nail. I started defending myself in conversations where no one had accused me of anything yet, which makes you sound guilty even if you're not. Another trick. After a week of silence, she texted me late at night. I miss you. No one gets me like you. I need a real man. I didn't answer. She texted the next morning. You're cold. I was vulnerable and you ignored me. She started the cycle again. Love bomb, insult, guilt, absence. It's like weather in a place where the sky hates you. I wish I could say I left for noble reasons. Truth is, I left because I couldn't hold the weight of the anger she put in me. It changed me. I'd stare at the ceiling thinking up speeches I'd never say, whole arguments in my head, as if rehearsing could make me less small. I didn't like who I was with her. That's the simplest sentence I can write. Here's the thing I want to admit because other guys won't. I stayed too long because the highs felt incredible. When she liked me, I felt like I could lift a truck. When she smiled at me across a room, I felt 10 feet tall. When she chose me in public, I felt crowned. That's not love. That's gambling. You pour your days into a machine and wait for a jackpot that never pays out enough to cover your losses. So this is the start, not the end. I'm writing it as Chat 1, because this is where the story really begins. The part where I tell the truth without worrying if it makes me look weak. I'm not going to decorate it. She was mean on purpose. She knew where to press and pressed there. She weaponized kindness and then rented it back to me. I'm not a saint in this. I enabled it by trying to be the bigger person until there was no person left. If someone reading this needs a rule, here's mine now. If someone makes you explain your basic worth more than once, leave. If they make you small and call it honesty, leave. If you feel relieved when they cancel, leave. If your friends go quiet when you mention their name, listen to the silence. And if you start recognizing yourself only in old photos, stop and get out before your face becomes a memory too. That's where I'm at. Not noble, not tragic, just done pretending her cruelty was a style choice. I'm going to tell the rest, but this is the piece I had to set down first, so I stopped carrying it alone. I told myself I was done. Then she did what she always does when she feels me slipping. She turned the volume up. First it was a soft pull, late night messages, thinking about you, a photo of the coffee place we used to go to, a voice note where she's half laughing, half crying. Remember when you said my plants look like they're plotting? I didn't answer. I put my phone in another room. I slept badly and kept checking it anyway. That's how it starts. Not begging, just bait. When that didn't work, she went to mutual friends. I got a text from one of the guys. Hey, are you okay? She said you showed up at her place and scared her. I hadn't. I was at my brother's, eating overcooked pasta and losing at cards. I sent a photo with a timestamp. My friend believed me, but I could feel the ground tilt. She knows how to plant doubt with clean hands. Then came the money. She messaged me. I'll send you the rent I owe next week. I said thank you. 2 days later, she posted a story about financial abuse and men who charge for love. I felt like someone threw cold water on me. I checked our chats to make sure I wasn't crazy. I had receipts. Her promise to split, the amount, the dates. I screenshotted them and almost sent them to everyone. I didn't. I saved them to a folder and closed the app. You don't win that game by playing louder. You win by having a spine and a paper trail. I set rules for myself because no contact sounds brave until the 2 a.m. wobble. Rules block her on everything that is essential. Mute mutuals who live for drama. Don't go to places she loves for a while. Tell 2 friends the whole story, not the polite version, so they can check me when I start apologizing for things I didn't do. Give the spare key to my neighbor. Put her stuff in a box. The box part was harder than I thought. A scarf. Hair ties that show up like weeds. A half-used face cream. Charger. A book she never returned. The scarf smelled like her perfume and anger. I almost kept it. I didn't. I put everything in a plain bag and wrote her a message from a clean number. Your things are with the doorman from 10 to 6. I won't be there. Please confirm when you pick them up. She replied with 3 lines. Coward move. I deserve a goodbye. You'll regret this. I left the message on read and turned the phone off. I stood in my kitchen and shook like I'd run a mile without moving. She didn't pick the bag up the first day, or the second. On the third, the doorman texted. She came with a friend. She filmed it. Of course she did. Every moment is content if you don't care who bleeds in the comments. I thanked him and brought him coffee the next morning. He nodded like he'd seen worse, which made me sad for both of us. I wish I could say I used the free time to become a new person. Mostly I sat in the quiet and learned to tolerate it. I cooked simple things. I put my phone in a drawer after 9 p.m. I went to the gym and did the same boring routine until my head stopped buzzing. I cleaned the apartment. I found a note from months ago stuck to the back of a drawer. By candles, you're bad at vibes. I laughed out loud alone, which felt like progress. A week in, she tried the nice route again. I'm sorry I overreacted, she wrote. Let's talk like adults. I said, please send anything practical by email. She replied, you're so cold. 10 minutes later, a selfie with a new guy's hand in the corner and the caption upgraded. 10 minutes after that, I miss your calm. Same day, 2 different campaigns. That's when it clicked for me. None of this is about me. It's about control. If she can't have it by pulling me close, she'll try by pushing me away, as long as I keep orbiting. I started therapy. I didn't go to talk about her. I went to talk about me. The part that stayed when it hurt. The part that thought being the calm one meant never having boundaries. The therapist said something simple that stuck. Being steady doesn't mean being still for someone else to throw things at. I wrote it down like homework. There were setbacks. I saw her at a friend's party I couldn't skip without making it a bigger deal. She came late on purpose, I think. She did the full show, loud laugh, one hand always on someone, making eye contact with me like a dare. I kept my back against a wall and talked to a guy about his dog's diet for 20 minutes. She brushed past me on the way to the kitchen and whispered, "Miss me?" I said, "Excuse me," like we were strangers in a hallway. She rolled her eyes. Later, she posted a story from the party aimed right at me. "Some men could have had a queen." I muted her for the 100th time, which is funny, because blocking is cleaner but muting is quieter. Two good things happened around then. First, my friends stopped being polite. One by one, they told me versions of the same sentence. "We didn't like how she talked to you. Not a pile-on, just facts I needed." It's crazy how loud silence gets when people finally fill it with the truth. Second, I had a day where I didn't think about her until dinner. I realized it at the sink and felt the weirdest feeling, pride for doing nothing but living. She tried a last trick I guess she thought would hook me. Sent me a long message about how her new guy was so confident and not threatened by a strong woman. I almost replied, "Good. Then you don't need me," but I remember my own rule, no engagement that feeds a game. I deleted the message. I went for a walk. I bought groceries like a normal person and didn't read meaning into apples. The final contact was short. She emailed about the money she owed, said she'd send half now, half next month. I said, "Thank you. Please include the reference." She sent the first half and added, "You were the safest man I ever dated. Too safe." I didn't answer. Too safe used to stab. Now it just sounded like a person who needs a storm to feel anything. I'm not weather. I won't lie and say I'm healed. I still wake up sometimes ready to explain myself to a judge who doesn't exist. I still rehearse speeches in the shower and then flush them down the drain. But my days have started to stack without her name punched through them. I can sit on the couch and watch something dumb without checking my phone for a grenade. I see a couple fighting in a parking lot, and instead of feeling dragged back into my old life, I feel grateful to be out of it. If someone needs steps, these are mine so far. Tell a whole story once to people who deserve it. Block what hurts you even if it feels dramatic. Don't return the scarf. Eat real food. Move your body. Write down what you won't accept again. Forgive yourself for wanting highs. Don't confuse quiet with boredom. If you slip, reset, not restart. She'll probably try again. Maybe in a month, maybe in a year, maybe the night I post a photo where I look happy. That's fine. I'm not going to war. I'm just not opening the door. The next part of my life don't need a villain to make sense. They need me to stop volunteering for the role of target and call it love. I thought I was finally pulling away. Weeks went by where I didn't hear from her, and I started to feel human again. Then out of nowhere, she sent me a short message. "Hope you're good." I didn't answer. 2 days later, I drove past your street. Weird without me there. I didn't answer that either. The silence wasn't easy. My brain kept running fake conversations. I'd imagine her knocking on my door, crying, asking for another chance. In those fantasies, I'd either forgive her or slam the door. Reality was quieter. Me making eggs, folding laundry, checking my phone too often. One night, she actually called. No hello, just, "So you're really done? After everything I gave you?" I almost laughed. Gave me? Like what? Constant test, constant drama. I said, "Yes, I'm done." She hung up. That should have been the end, But here's the thing. Hearing her voice stirred up all the old highs again. I hated that. It proved to me she still had strings tied to me, and I was the idiot holding them. So I blocked her number right there. After that, it got quieter. Not perfect, not painless, but quieter. I started noticing things I hadn't in months. The taste of coffee, how good a shower feels after gym, the way music sounds when it isn't background noise to an argument. Little stuff, real stuff. I don't think about her less because she changed. I think about her less because I finally decided to stop giving her space in my head rent-free. It's strange how quiet feels at first. You think you want peace, but when it finally shows up, it feels like a void. I kept waiting for the next explosion, like a soldier who doesn't believe the war is over. My phone would buzz with some random notification, and my stomach would drop, expecting her name. It took me weeks to retrain my brain to see a message without panic. She tried small ways to sneak back in. Fake accounts watching my stories. Sudden friend requests from people with no photos. Even a DM from an old classmate saying, "She keeps asking about you, man." I didn't bite. The trick is to treat attention like currency. If I paid her with even a single reaction, she'd know I was still in the game. So I stayed broke. But it wasn't easy. Some nights I'd lie in bed and think about the beginning, when she was fun and charming, before the rules, before the gaslighting, before the guilt trips. And for a split second I'd miss that version of her. Then I'd remind myself that version was just bait. The real her was the one who could tear me apart with a smile. That reminder saved me more than once. My friends started inviting me out more. At first I didn't want to go. I'd forgotten how to act like myself around people. But little by little it helped. I laughed at dumb jokes again. I caught myself telling stories without censoring every detail out of fear she'd mock me. One friend said, "You sound lighter." I didn't feel lighter yet, but hearing it made me believe maybe I could. The biggest shift came when I realized I didn't have to win anymore. For months I was obsessed with proving I was right, proving she was toxic, proving I wasn't the villain she painted me to be. But who was I proving it to? Her? Her friends? Strangers on the internet? The truth doesn't need an audience. The truth just sits there, solid, whether anyone claps for it or not. That thought hit me hard. So when she tried one last stunt, posting a photo of herself with some guy, captioned "Real love finally," I didn't even feel jealous. I felt tired. Not angry tired, just the kind where you carried a bag too long and finally set it down. I didn't care who the guy was. I just cared that he wasn't me. That night, for the first time in a long time, I slept all the way through. No checking my phone, no fake arguments in my head, no waiting for the next grenade. Just sleep. And in the morning, I made coffee and realized maybe this is what moving on actually looks like. I didn't plan an ending speech. I thought it would just fade. But endings don't fade by themselves. They either rot or you take them to the curb. I decided to take mine out. It started with a message I wrote and didn't send for 3 days. No anger, no bait, no poetry. Just this: "Please don't contact me again. I wish you well, but I'm done. If there's anything legal or financial, email only." I saved it in drafts and sat with it. Every hour my brain tried on a different version. Nicer, meaner, longer, shorter. In the end, I sent the simple one. She saw it and didn't reply. That silence felt louder than any fight we ever had. The first week after that was weirdly physical. I was tired in my bones, like I'd been clenching every muscle for a year, and finally let go. I slept at odd times. I woke up hungry like I hadn't eaten properly in months, which was probably true. I cleaned the apartment for real, not the fake, wiped the counter clean, but the pull-out-the-couch kind. I found a hair tie behind a bookshelf and the old scarf stuff in the bag. I thought I'd already given back. It smelled like a day I didn't want anymore. I threw it out. No ceremony. Just a scarf in the bin. That felt like a small graduation. People talk a lot about finding yourself after a breakup. That made me roll my eyes. Turns out it's less dramatic than it sounds. I didn't find a new self. I found old habits I liked and started doing them again. I lifted without checking my phone between sets. I cooked food that took more than one pan. I called my brother and actually listened instead of waiting for an opening to dump my problems. I took a long walk without headphones and realized the birds are annoying and I like it. That's it. Not a new me, just a me I hadn't had the energy to be. My friends did what friends do when you stop being a ghost. They dragged me to a game night, fed me bad nachos, and told me the truth. One of them said, "We started editing ourselves around you when she was in the room. It's good to have you back." It stung a little, not because they were wrong, but because I'd made that easy to happen. I apologized for disappearing, without saying I was sorry for needing space. Both things can be true. There was a moment I want to write down, because it changed how I remember the whole thing. I was at the store, bored, staring at a wall of sauces. A couple nearby was arguing about which pasta to buy. The woman rolled her eyes and said, "You never listen," and the guy went quiet and small. I felt in my body that drop, that shut down, that whatever I say will be wrong. I almost walked over and told him to pick the pasta he wants and go home. Then I realized two things. One, I am not the spokesperson for men in grocery aisles. And two, I don't have to live in that feeling anymore. I put a jar in my cart like a normal person and left. I'm writing this to remind myself I am allowed to recognize a pattern and also choose not to reenact it. She broke no contact once. Of course she did. It was late, like always. I had a bad day. I missed the way you made me calm, she wrote. It used to be a trap I fell into, the soft pull, the rescue mission. This time I read it once and didn't reply. Not because I hate her, because I'm not a service. I blocked the email. Then I sat on my couch, hands shaking a little, and waited for the old guilt to show up. It did, and then it left. Emotions are like weather. You don't fix them, you outlast them. I started therapy with a simple goal: be honest without making myself a saint or a clown. The therapist kept bringing me back to actions instead of stories. "What will you do next time you see the same red flag?" he asked. I wrote my answer down so I can't weasel out of it later. If someone mocks me and calls it honesty, I leave mid-conversation. If someone keeps score, I don't play the game. If my friends go quiet after meeting someone I'm dating, I ask why and I listen. If I feel relief when they cancel, I treat that as information, not a quirk. If I start defending myself in imaginary court, I take a walk and don't send a speech. If I catch myself paying for peace with my self-respect, I choose the argument or I choose the door. No more discounts. I also wrote a smaller list called Things I Want That Aren't Dramatic, because I thought wanting normal stuff made me boring. It doesn't. I want someone who shows up when they say they will, who says thank you without making it a performance, who can apologize without turning it into a poem, who doesn't need me to be weather or a wall, who laughs with me in the kitchen because the onion is too strong, not because we're trying to cover the smell of something rotten. There's a part of me that wanted a cinematic final scene, a last brunch where we speak our truths, a letter in a box, a wish you the best on a sidewalk. We didn't get that. We got adult paperwork. The last transfer, the last email with the subject line confirmed, the last block. That's fine. Movies end with music because they need to tell you how to feel. Real life ends with chores because that's how you make room for something else. I did have one accidental closure moment, though. I saw her across the street outside a place we used to go to. Not a setup, just life. She looked good. She always does. She saw me and we both paused. I raised a hand in a small wave, nothing more. She gave me a tiny nod. No smile, no eye roll, no performance. Two people who shared a story and decided not to write the next chapter together. I kept walking. My stomach didn't drop. My hands didn't sweat. I went home and watered the plants. That was enough. If you want lessons, here are the only ones I trust after living them. Love isn't a receipt for disrespect. Being calm is not the same as being available for mistreatment. Leaving isn't failure when staying means leaving yourself. Quiet is not boredom. It's space where your life can sit down. You don't have to destroy someone to stop being destroyed by them. People keep asking what I'll do differently next time. I don't have a script. I'm not going to swing to the other extreme and turn into a stone. I'm just going to be clear sooner and mean it. If I say that hurts, I won't apologize for the sentence. If I say this doesn't work for me, I won't be negotiated out of my own boundary. If someone needs chaos to feel alive, they can find it without me. I'll end with something small, because small is what saved me. The other night, I cooked pasta and didn't ruin it. I put on a dumb show. Halfway through, I paused, made tea, and stood by the window while it brewed. Nothing happened. No text, no panic, no performance. Just the quiet sound of water settling. That's my ending. Not fireworks. Not revenge. Just a life that no longer needs a villain to have a plot. So yes, this is the end. Not tragic, not noble, not win or lose. Just done. I'm closing the tab, not rage quitting the app. And in the space that opens up, I'm going to do ordinary things well and let ordinary be enough. That's the whole point I almost missed. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up when you finally stop feeding what hurts you and let the rest of your life get a turn.